Of all the people they could send out on the morning round after Rishi Sunak's made himself look like a fool, you don't send Chris Philp. The policing minister has to be the second worst person to interview after Theresa Coffey, and all he's done is just made everything look worse. They say a week is a long time in politics, and it's got to be Rishi Sunak's worst week. Last week he was caught laughing at people's mortgages going up, and then he makes a 1,000 bet with Piers Morgan. And now he insults the trans community and Brianna Jai's parents by trying to make a political scoring point. And so Chris Philp has toed the party line, and never to admit and never to apologise. They could have made all this go away by simply saying sorry for the insensitive words, but they won't. And you know why? It's because they want to keep using this line of attack. They don't have any record of achievement, and all they have is culture wars and trans issues, just like Lee Anderson said.
It was about Keir Starmer's flip-flopping and not about anything else.
That's not how it was taken by the family. And Brianna's father has said it was dehumanising and degrading. We just heard from Mary Lou McDonald there, who her elder sister was born a man. She says that the Prime Minister should apologise. He strayed out of his lane. It was inappropriate, what he said. I've made mistakes and had to apologise. I've wanted to apologise. You've made mistakes and wanted to apologise. Why is it so hard for him to apologise?
Well, he was talking very clearly about Keir Starmer's flip-flops and U-turns. It was very clearly. And I can see that. I was very, very sad to read those comments yesterday evening. I think Rishi Sunak did later in PMQs go out of his way to pay very fulsome tribute to Brianna and her family. He didn't mention, prior to that, he hadn't mentioned them at all. He was talking about Keir Starmer's policies. I think there is a wider point here for politicians, for journalists, for everybody, to keep in mind that when there are very sensitive issues being discussed, to always use respectful and measured language, lest there are unintended consequences. But I think, I've listened to the clip a couple of times, and he was very clearly talking just about Keir Starmer's flip-flops.
But the family is offended.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and I was very sad to read those comments. But I've listened to the clip. I think your viewers should listen to the clip as well, or view the clip. I think you may have played it earlier, and it was clear he was talking about Keir Starmer's flip-flops, and he mentioned a whole range of different issues.
The family's offended, and they've lost their child.
Yeah.
I mean, saying sorry is not a big deal when someone's lost their child and they're turning to the Prime Minister and saying, you have degraded and dehumanised my child.
Yeah, and he did. And when he was asked about this, when Rishi Sunak was asked about this, he paid very fulsome, as I said already, very fulsome tribute to Brianna and her family. And yeah, he was talking about a series of flip-flops.
I know.
And he mentioned Keir Starmer's...
offended.
I've seen that. And he mentioned Keir Starmer's flip-flopping on the trans issues as one of many flip-flops. He didn't even come close to mentioning Brianna himself. It was Keir Starmer that introduced that.
Of course, Brianna was a girl.
Excuse me, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat today.
Oh dear, there's water.
I'm going to have some of that water.
Yeah, do. I can fill for time.
We want to...
Do you think that jibe was appropriate when the mother of Brianna Jai, Esther, was in the house? She wasn't in the gallery, but she was in the chamber, in the house. Do you think it was appropriate at that time for the Prime Minister to have that on his list of jibes to hit back at Sir Keir Starmer?
Well, I think you've made the point that the Prime Minister wasn't talking about trans issues. He certainly wasn't talking about Brianna in that passage of PMQs. He was talking about Keir Starmer's record of U-turns.
He did not need to use defining a woman at that moment in time, did he?
Let me finish. He was listing a whole number of different U-turns. We've seen another U-turn today where it's Labour ditching their £28 billion policy issue.
I want to focus on what Rishi Sunak said. Was it appropriate, in your opinion, that he used that line of the 30, he said, nearly 30 he's counted, that he used that particular line when Brianna Jai's mother was in the chamber?
Not in the chamber, but in the wider premises.
And then she came to the gallery soon after those comments. OK.
And I think later in that exchange, later in Prime Minister's questions, a Labour member of Parliament asked a question specifically about Brianna and her family, and the Prime Minister paid a very warm tribute to Brianna
after he'd been asked to apologise
and her family. And the campaigning they'd done, making clear his support for them, and that was the right thing to do.
Was it respectful, his initial comment?
Well, I think he was drawing attention to a series of U-turns, flip-flops, the fact that Labour have no plan whatsoever.
Philp, you've explained that, and I've accepted that he was talking about U-turns. I'm asking you if you think it was respectful.
I think he was talking about Labour's and Keir Starmer's flip-flops and U-turns.
Do you think it was respectful to talk about Sir Keir Starmer's views on trans people at that time? Do you think it was respectful?
Well, he was talking about Labour's policy flip-flops, and that is a reasonable thing to do. The Prime Minister made no reference at all to any individual trans people. It was Keir Starmer who introduced that. The Prime Minister was making a point about Labour's very numerous flip-flops, another one of which we're seeing today, illustrating they've got no plan whatsoever.
OK, the father of Brianna Ghey, Peter Spooner, has said that Rishi Sunak's remarks were degrading and absolutely dehumanising. He said, as the Prime Minister for our country, to come out with degrading comments like he did, regardless of them being in relation to discussions in Parliament, they are absolutely dehumanising. He went on to say identities of people should not be used in that manner. And I personally feel shocked by his comments and feel he should apologise for his remarks. Is Peter Spooner, the father of Brianna Ghey, going to get an apology from Rishi Sunak?
Well, I was very, very sad to read or to hear about those comments from Brianna's father yesterday when he made those. As I say, I think anyone who is interested in this issue should actually listen to the clip, listen to the initial exchange yesterday.
So are you saying Peter
PMQs.
Spooner has misunderstood what Rishi Sunak has said?
Look, I've got every respect for, obviously, the views and feelings of a bereaved father.
Do you think he deserves an apology?
Look, I think if you people should listen to the clip, form their own view.
He has listened to the clip. I cannot imagine that the father of a child who was murdered a year ago this Sunday has not listened to that clip. And I think it's quite disingenuous for you to suggest he hasn't. He's asked for an apology. Do you think he'll get one?
I did not for a second suggest that. I'm saying that people who want to form a view...
But my question to you was about whether Peter Spooner would get an apology, not about people listening to the clip.
OK. Look, I've already said repeatedly that the Prime Minister made no reference to any individual in his remarks yesterday. It was Keir Starmer who introduced the name of an individual. When the Prime Minister was asked about Brianna later on in PMQs, he paid a very, very warm tribute to Brianna and her family.
It's not the first time Chris Philp's made a complete fool of himself in an interview round, and if you want to have a laugh at him doing so, take a look at him having another bad morning in the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, and I'll see you next time.